We take you now to the RFS headquarters in Sydney, where Premier Gladys Berejiklian is giving an update on the bushfire crisis across New South Wales.
Relief to have Princess Highway opened, which has literally allowed hundreds and thousands of people to leave the area. There is still a window there, and we're encouraging everybody that doesn't need to be on the south coast to please exit the area. There is a window there until tonight for people to get out, and we encourage them to do so. Please do not stay in the area unless you absolutely have to. I also want to acknowledge the efforts and also the acceptance of many communities around southern New South Wales, in addition to the south coast, areas like Batlow and Adelong, Tumut and Tumbarumba, which have already recommended people leave their homes, and we're grateful that people have taken that advice. We're making every preparation possible for what will be a very difficult day tomorrow. Weather conditions are very unpredictable. We know the temperatures will still be in the mid-40s in many parts of our state, and when you have so many fires still in active status, so many fires still releasing embers, we know that the wind conditions and those hot temperatures can make it another terrible day tomorrow. I want to assure the community that we're doing everything we can to prepare for what will be a difficult day tomorrow. In fact, not only have we ensured that all of our 30 state government agencies are working together so closely, but we've had the presence of the ADF here at headquarters and on the ground since November, and I'm pleased to say that we've increased that resourcing to ensure that if the fires tomorrow again result in communities being cut off or result in supplies being diminished because there's no access to those communities, the ADF will be there to support us in our efforts of getting basic supplies to communities. Already today we've ensured that there's additional generators to support communities without power. Additional supplies have been taken to those areas where communities have been impacted. We know that people are at different stages. For some people, they're still coming to terms with having lost everything. For others, they're going through the trauma of seeing their neighbours suffer and their communities suffer, and others still are just living in a state of fear, and we appreciate that. But we're please asking everybody to appreciate that every preparation is being made for tomorrow. And if you are someone experiencing difficulty and need help, please go to the evacuation centres. We've ensured there's additional staff in those centres, and we've also ensured that there's sufficient advice to people who need all sorts of assistance during this difficult time. And in coming days, a focus of the government will be to ensure we have enough welfare support to support people from a mental health perspective, because I know that some people have experienced things and seen things they never thought they would in their lifetime, and we need to make sure that every level of support is being offered to those communities. Again, we ask people to use the 1800 RFS number if they want some assistance on how to get information. We appreciate, and I have had briefings that people in the telecommunications industry, both government and non-government, are working very closely to ensure that they address those issues around infrastructure and congestion around certain locations. But we encourage everybody to use the 1800 RFS number to get information about what they should do. As we heard yesterday and today, only ring 000 if you see a fire or if there's no fire truck in your street. Please make sure that if it's information you're seeking, that you contact the 1800 RFS number. I also want to thank everybody, including all media outlets, for getting information out. We know that for some isolated communities who might not have reception, they're relying on radio and other forms of communication, and we're grateful that everybody is getting the message out clearly, which is incredibly important. But again, I've been astounded by a number of things during this fire season. One is the amazing resilience of our firefighters. One is the level of coordination of all of our emergency services personnel, 30 agencies and now federal agencies included in that, working closely together to make sure we have a coordinated response, and also upping the ante on our level of preparedness. And what I've also been completely humbled by is people opening up their homes to strangers, people supporting people in their communities they may not have met before or know before. And that's what our state's about. That's what Australia is about, supporting each other in times of need. And I just want to personally thank everybody, all the local heroes, some of whom will be recognised, some of whose names we'll never know. But thank you for opening your hearts and your homes to people who are really doing it tough. And it's a wonderful example to all of us. So I just want to thank you for your efforts. Deputy Commissioner.
Good afternoon. As the Premier said, the state of readiness for New South Wales for these fires tomorrow can't be matched anywhere. We are ready as we can be. We've got 5 areas of concern. We put out maps before lunchtime of areas where we see that these fires would potentially impact, and they are shaded red, and then a shaded area outside of that, which is an ember zone, that potentially fires could also develop very quickly. Our clear advice to people is do not be in these areas. Plan to not be there. And what I would also say to you, we normally say early morning leave. That didn't occur on New Year's Eve. We were losing homes at 3:30 in the morning. So what we're saying to people is be out of those areas tonight. And we're just saying go somewhere that isn't in one of those areas. Go to an area that's been burnt out already. Go towards the beach areas. Make sure that you're not in that area when those winds come in tomorrow morning and the temperature starts elevating. These fires can move frighteningly quick, and we unfortunately were, as I say, we had homes being alight at that time, and we had people ringing 000 saying they were trapped already early morning, and that's not the way people want to be woken up. So we just need people to be safe. I guess the 5 areas of concern is the Shoalhaven region from Burrell Lake north to Nowra. We've got the south coast, then from Bateman's Bay down to the Victorian border. And then we've got that snowy valley area. We don't want to lose sight of those fires more inland. Tarcutta, southwest of Tumut, and then through Batlow and down to Tumbarumba. Also the snowy Monero area, Adamidimi to Cooma, and then down to Jindabyne, Perisher. And then let's not also forget we've still got active fires in Sydney area. So the Greater Sydney area, we still have concerns with the Green Wattle fire. On the south of that fire, above Mittagong, that's still active fire. We've had breakout on that fire to the west of Penrith. Crews are confident of getting around it, but we're going to be concerned about that tomorrow and watching it closely. And also the Grosse Valley fire, where it came across the Grosse River from the Gospers Mountain fire that caused so much devastation earlier. That fire broke out. Crews again are getting that under control, but it will be a weak point and a vulnerable point that we'll be watching tomorrow very carefully. Apart from more than 3,000 firefighters that will be allocated to fires tomorrow, in 700 fire appliances, there'll be more than 650 extra firefighters in 150 fire appliances, both of fire rescue and RFS, staged strategically around the state in 18 locations. And they will be there ready for things to go wrong, and they'll be sent. Whichever one's nearest by, they'll be sent. The idea there is having a surge capacity to make sure we're ready to respond to whatever the day throws at us tomorrow. We've got additional helicopters online, so we're as ready as we possibly can be. I guess what I'm saying is we've done our part now. Now we need the community to do their part. And the community doing their part means being out of those areas, making sure you're not in a vulnerable spot. Where unfortunately, very likely, we will lose homes tomorrow. But we'll be very happy and we'll call it success if there's no lives lost. That is our single focus tomorrow. And we need the community to have that focus as well. And then obviously call for help when you need it. 000 life-threatening only.
Great, thank you. Questions?
Premier, the Prime Minister said earlier today that you declined federal assistance to evacuate people from the beaches using the ADF. Why was that?
Look, we've accepted all assistance that we've needed, and in relation to those operational matters, unlike other states like Victoria, we have a highway which allow people to leave safely. We have to look at what is the safest way for people to leave. I've not heard those comments. Prime Minister and I have been in constant contact today, and that's not actually accurate.
It was in a story today.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's accurate.
So he didn't offer that assistance?
Well, all I say is in relation to operational matters, we've accepted all the assistance we absolutely need. We'll continue to do so. But we also have to leave it to the experts to make those operational decisions. It shouldn't be for politicians to make decisions on how best for people to get out. This is where the experts come in. They give us the operational advice on what is the best way to have people leave. And as I said in my opening remarks, I'm extremely relieved that access to the Princess Highway has meant that everybody who wants to get out of the South Coast can. There's still a window for people to leave, and we encourage them to do so. If you don't need to be in the area, we encourage you to do so. But as Deputy Commissioner Commissioner Rogers said, that window will close because, like, as we saw on New Year's Eve, we were starting to lose homes in the early hours of the morning. So the window is still there. We encourage people to use that window, and police and other emergency services personnel will assist in that process. But we also have to be very careful in managing communities safely, in making sure we provide the best and safest way for people to leave their evacuation points.
Are you expecting the Duns Road fire and the Carolyn fire to merge?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The Duns Road and Carolyn fire.
Are you expecting them to merge with that big Ember attack area between the two of them?
Yeah, that's the fire. Sorry, it's the fire near Tumut, you're saying?
Yeah, those two.
Yeah, so potentially, yes, they will. Just simply because of the embers, whether it's tomorrow or the next day, ultimately they will merge, and that fire basically has the same fire that left Albury, went down into Victoria, and now is going to burn back into New South Wales. So that will ultimately merge, and we'll have a fire front of something like 60 kilometres long.
And so looking towards the Greater Sydney area, where are the main areas that focus for you tomorrow?
So those areas above Mittagong, on that Green Wattle fire, to the west of Penrith, where that fire broke out there. Again, we've got containment on that fire, but it will be a weak point for us. And then the areas in the Blue Mountains on that Gross River fire that came across, they're concerned about that. But I've got to say also, we've also got a lot of areas to the west of the Gospers Mountain fire in Lithgow that are still actively burning. They're not contained, but, you know, we're just dealing with those and trying to get control on them, but we don't have control yet. So I guess it's fair to say there's a lot of areas that we're concerned about. We're prioritising those to those areas where there's most threat to life and property, and that will be our focus tomorrow.
Do you have enough people on the ground to do door knocks in those areas, or is the message that you have to leave that you can't start that?
You're talking about in the red zones?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're obviously going out telling people this. We're doing, there's community meetings. I've got to say, I don't think there's many community members in those areas that wouldn't be aware of what's going on. I'd be very surprised if there was. So I think the community is very well attuned to the risk down there. They're thirsty for information. They're constantly asking for more information. We're giving as much as we can, and I think the community, particularly with what's happened over New Year's Eve, is well ready for this information. And I've got to say, I think people are acting on it.
Are you concerned that there'll be a situation, especially on the south coast again, where these fires create an environment where communities are cut off and they're short on food and short on water and short on fuel when they are already? Are you worried about that happening again?
Well, it is, but through our arrangements, that's being considered. That's why the military are having additional supplies. There's extra generators. Did you want to talk any more on that, Gary? There's generators. Yeah. There's a whole load of things, the planning that's gone on in those areas to try and make sure that that's being considered. We understand that roads may be blocked, but I've got to say those roads were open very quickly, and we don't have the tourists there now. That's the difference now. We had thousands and thousands of tourists in those areas, which put an incredible strain on those local shops. Those people are no longer there. It's mainly only residents now, so I don't think the same strain would be there.
Is it the military that's been bringing in the food and the water and fuel?
No, it hasn't been, but what the military are doing now is they're pre-positioning additional water, things like that, to make sure that if evac centres do get cut off, that they can readily bring those things into play and supplement what the state's already provided.
Obviously, the Greater Sydney area is a densely populated region. What do you have any warnings for people in this area tomorrow? Obviously on the predicted fire.
If you're in the area, obviously, we've issued of a concern, then you should be really cleared. Just don't be there if that fire starts to move. Those fires are contained, so they're not running, they're not moving quickly, with the exception of the southern part of near Mittagong. That area is uncontained. We expect that fire to move. We're putting a lot of retardant on that fire to try and slow it tomorrow, but our strategy tomorrow with that fire is to lay retardant on it ahead of it, just to try and slow its progress so it doesn't get to places like Mittagong, and that's our strategy. But there is rural communities to the southern part of that fire that we believe will be impacted. We'll be talking to those communities, making sure they clearly understand the risk, but at the end of the day, that's our strategy tomorrow, is to try and minimise how far these fires run, knowing we can't put them out, and making sure then, once we get through tomorrow, then we start looking at containment.
So how severe is that threat to people in this region, in the Greater Sydney region, particularly in
Well, I guess it depends on whether the fire gets out. If the fire gets out, absolutely it's serious. It's very serious. We could have fire into the Blue Mountains, Springwood, Wimmallee if that fire does break out. We're obviously going to be watching it very closely and doing everything we can to stop that happening, but I can't guarantee that it won't happen because potentially it could. It's the same with the Green Wattle fire, which is to the west of Penrith. That fire could become quite active and burn quite quickly. But again, we're going to be watching it very closely.
Do you have any indication as to how many people are opting to stay back down the south coast, and what you're advising those people to do in those communities?
No, we don't know individuals because, look, people make a choice. We give them all the information. We've been very upfront. We've been very honest with people about the risk. But if people choose to stay, then that's on them. I guess what they have to do is they have to understand that if they choose to do that, do not expect that there's going to be a fire truck there if you ring. Make sure you understand that you're likely to be stuck there for some time. And the last thing you should do is suddenly change your mind at the last minute. We've unfortunately seen people caught in cars, and that's fatal. Being caught in a car is only minorly better. It's only a little bit better than being caught on foot. Cars are not safe places to be.
And former Commissioner Mullins was on the radio this morning urging the PM to call in further Air Force help from places like Portugal, France, Spain. Would you agree with a call like that? Do you think that you guys are sufficiently resourced?
Yes, I do. I've got to say we have the resources we want. We can't get, you can't, there's a limit to how many aircraft can safely operate over fire grounds. A lot of these fire grounds, we've had difficulty getting any aircraft when they've been very active. Through the national arrangements, we're looking at what we need and we're considering now other states are getting quite busy. We're thinking whether there's more resources being needed. We're a state that very much shares with what we have. We're sharing with other states and territories, and they will do likewise. We have very good national arrangements in place, and I'm very comfortable with them.
Can you give us a bit of an overview of that air capacity?
Well, we have 5 large air tankers. We have more than 104 other aircraft in place. Helicopters, because look, I know the large air tankers get a lot of publicity, but there's things like the air cranes, there's Black Hawk helicopters, there's a lot of the medium bombers, people that live and work in this state that provide great work and great service to the people of New South Wales day in, day out with these aircraft. And we shouldn't forget them. It's not all about the big jets flying around. It's all about those local people. First attack, they get in there, they put these fires out before they become problems.
And the fire and rescue surge capacity you mentioned, how will that work?
Well, between fire and rescue and RFS, we've planned all these strike teams. We've got them, they're mixed between RFS and fire and rescue. We've got them in these 18 strategic locations. As areas call for help, we'll work out what the priorities are, and we'll dispatch them, and then we'll maintain at a state level an awareness of what capacity we still have left, just to make sure we get through the day and we don't use everything too early.
Is that mostly around Greater Sydney? Or
No. No, it's all the way. We've got places in Wagga, down in Cooma, down on the south coast. We're looking at all those risky areas. We're making sure that we've got pre-positioned units in place to respond to any threat for communities. Because at the end of the day, we look after communities well outside of Sydney. We've got to look after New South Wales.
Is there a particular time when that wind's going to change that you're worried about as well?
Yes, certainly. The southerly change will come through a lot later tomorrow than it did on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, it came through early afternoon in the south coast, whereas we're looking at very late in the afternoon that southerly change will be coming through. And I think it won't be up until Sydney until the early hours of the morning, so very different. And I was talking to the Bureau a little earlier, and they're suggesting it could even be delayed further, the change. And if every time that becomes a little bit more delayed, the fire danger gets higher and higher. So we'll be watching that very closely.
Are there any catastrophic areas within those extremes?
There is what they call spots of it, not enough to make it a rating of catastrophic, but I think it's fair to say that it's likely we'll see some areas during the day reach that catastrophic forecast, particularly in the southern part of New South Wales. And obviously we're gearing up to that. Whilst it's rated extreme, it's in the upper end of extreme, so it's going to be a bad day. Whatever the rating is, it's going to be a pretty bad day.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
That was authorities at the RFS headquarters in Sydney giving us an update on the bushfire situation across New South Wales. They did praise volunteers and the community spirit that has come out of these bushfires, but they've urged all tourists on the south coast to get out while they can ahead of those worsening conditions tomorrow. For the latest weather forecasts, here's Samantha Chiari from Sky News Weather.
Out-of-control bushfires are ravaging southeastern Australia. We have fires burning out of control in South Australia on Kangaroo Island, and the attention is shifting towards New South Wales and Victoria once again on Saturday. Now, this has been declared as our worst bushfire day so far this season. Scary to think in the wake of what we did see on Tuesday, with hundreds of homes gone and loss of life. Winds increasing, Canberra 42 degrees, Sydney 34. Now, the cool change won't be arriving for Victoria and New South Wales until the late afternoon and evening. For Queensland, it's hot as well, particularly through the inland regions of the state. All eyes on New South Wales. We have a total fire ban in place. A state of emergency has been declared. The cool change is expected to hit southern New South Wales and eastern Victoria in the afternoon and evening. A carbon copy forecast what we did see on New Year's Eve. It is very hot in that far east Gippsland region.